A very good evening and a warm welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. Before we start the show tonight, a quick reminder to all of us to follow the Ministry of Health guidelines that are key to helping us weather this current storm that is COVID-19. So remember to wear a mask anytime you're in public, maintain social distancing, wash your hands with soap and water, use a hand sanitizer if soap and water are not readily available, and stay home if you can afford to stay home. If you've been in contact with someone with COVID-19, or if you feel that you have any of the symptoms, please self-isolate and reach out for support. Tonight, let's quickly get into our conversation. We will be speaking about keeping clean after addiction to psychoactive substances. And I'll very quickly introduce my guests. I'll start with Peter Ntango, who is a recovering addict. Peter, it's good to have you on the show.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing to share your story. I know it's never easy. Bill Bekunda, founder, Bekunda Recovery Homes. Bill, you are probably my co-host at this point because you've been here so many times. Thank you for agreeing to this interview.
Thank you. Thank you for always inviting me.
Yeah, the things you speak about are very important, and especially for the times that we are in. So you will constantly be a go-to person for this, and I'm grateful that you always agree to it. Peter, let's quickly start with you and just hear your story. You are a recovering addict.
Yes.
How long have you been in recovery?
This is my eighth month now.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
When did you start using? Was it alcohol? Was it drugs? What particular substance?
it was alcohol and cannabis. Yeah.
How long were you using it for, and at what age did you start using?
I started when I was 14.
14 years old.
Yeah.
And you are how old now?
I'm 25.
So that's about 9-10 years.
Yeah, coming to 11.
I am assuming you were in school at that time, so
Yes, I was.
I'm curious to know how you were able to get the drugs. Bill, feel free to join in at any point, but I'm curious to know, Peter, how you were able to get access to the drugs in school.
I didn't really start using from school because I was in a day school called Aga Khan High School. Yeah, this was my senior too. So it wasn't really like peer pressure from school. It was more of like my environment at home. It was my neighbor who influenced me to start using. This time I was staying in Kololo. So both of our parents did know that we were curious souls and we liked experimenting on different things. Yeah, so he was like 5 years older than me. I was in senior 2, he was in senior 6. So, and he was already a full-blown user. So I think one time he tried to initiate me into using, and I'm also a curious soul. So I said, okay. I didn't like it at first, but then the habit grew on me until it became a daily thing, a daily routine. It was sort of euphoric. The first time around, I didn't do it right. And this is smoking. I'm not talking about drinking. I already tried it, but my bad habit, like my vice, is mostly smoking. So the first time I tried it, it didn't work out. I didn't feel it. I'm like, why do people even smoke? Then he sort of taught me how to inhale. Then he was also enticing me like with music videos because I love music, especially hip hop. So, and I'm sure you know, music plays a big role in influencing the youth. So that also played a part. So we'd watch music videos together. You see people smoking in the videos, and I thought that was cool, like stereotypical. I thought, yeah, it's what girls like. So that's what attracted me to it. So he taught me how to smoke the right way. Then I got high. It was a very good feeling. I was happy, you know, all that, the whole nine. So yeah, that's when I started doing it on a daily basis.
So on a daily basis means you have that much access. Bill, help me out here. How much access is there for these drugs that you can just very quickly get them?
You see, his story is kind of similar to mine, you know, same class, same age, and the progression. It all happened the same. We didn't know each other. We are from two, I think I'm about 10 or so years older than he is, but the same sequence happens. It was still peer pressure. And then he developed the liking for it. That these substances give human beings, what do? We repeat pleasurable actions, right? So you like it, you do it again. And that is what happens. If you don't like it, you most probably will not do it. So it happens to so many, some other people, it happens in a different way, in that they have this, they just have depression or anxiety or panic, all these things that probably they were born with or developed as they were growing. And the moment they try a drug, it gives them a certain feeling of relief. And when they get that feeling of relief, then they can develop a problem. So it can start either way, either because you have a problem, or you don't have a problem, but you like it, like he did. And then, you know, the pressure of, you know, you look cool, you know, music and all these things. And then you get dragged into the whole mess, if I may call it that.
Okay, so let me understand. Peter, you're 14. The person that brought you into this is about 5 years. That's about 19.
18.
The two of you are very easily able to access where you're getting the drugs from, how you are able to then do it on your own. Who is your supplier? How did you even get to have somebody who is able to supply you with enough to use every day?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was lured into it. And where we used to get it from, the supplier, the dealer was staying in Naguru. So yeah, we'd send borders to bring for us. Because most times we would want to go there because it was sort of like a ghetto area, not safe. So we'd send the border, he'd bring enough stock, enough stash. Then we'll pile up for like weeks and months. And we'll do it like, we'll disguise ourselves. We'd go for evening walks, smoke at Kololo airstrip, that time when it was still free. Then we'll come back home, eat. We had eye drops by Zine. We tried to play it smart, but still, it caught up to us.
So your parents never really suspected anything?
The first years, no. The first 2 years, no.
It's accessible. There was, for instance, I didn't smoke weed. I kind of didn't like it. My high came from alcohol, and people thought that alcohol cannot mess someone up that bad. And so they kept saying, you must be on cocaine or heroin, or I don't know what kind of drugs that they see on TV. But we used to go with the easiest thing to buy, for instance, is cannabis. Because there are some ladies or gentlemen who sit on the roadside, you know, the ones who sell cigarettes, sweets, binyebwa. Yes, some of them are actually dealers, and then they know, I mean, there's a code, or you're a customer and you come and they'll give you what you're looking for. You see what I'm saying? So it's very, very, very accessible. And also, you know, today it's even worse because friends, they're like, you know, we have a party. There's one guy who will always bring for you that. Weed cakes are in the house these days. We have
and cookies.
Yeah.
And cookies, and ordered for even by adults, even by people my age and a little bit older. You know, it's all one big mess.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter, at what point, so you said 2 years later is when your parents began to suspect there's a problem. Yeah, when did you begin to suspect I am in trouble?
I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't function, I became antisocial, like, it was too much. Like, you know, there's this saying, you used to live and live to use. That had become like my slogan. So that's when I realized there was a big problem.
What made your parents realize there was a problem?
You know, school, I became so stubborn. I got expelled from like 5 schools, high schools. Yeah, and it's not like because of my grades, it was just indiscipline. I started influencing kids to start using drugs. I tarnished my name completely. So I was really a very bad character. So it made me this sort of person, like soulless, no conscience. I didn't care. Like I was going with the wind, so it wasn't good.
And at home, were you the same person at home? Were you
No,
soulless at home as well?
I changed, like this loving person. I used to be so friendly, always trying to help people, jolly, you know. I became so secluded, like I never wanted to talk to my people at home, my brother and sister, my parents. Like I became so antisocial, like not really an introvert, but it led me to that. So yeah, so it didn't help me at all.
All right. So Bill, you mentioned Bill earlier, and the reason Bill is here is also because of the work he does, but also because I know that he was your counselor, your mentor, your coach. Yeah, is that right, Bill?
Yes, yeah, yeah, he was.
Yeah, Pierre is a very interesting person, and you know he has always had a heart to try and help people. But I remember one question that he asked me is like, "Man, I've been trying, but I don't know what seems to keep going wrong." You know, and that's a question I ask myself as well. You know, when I would try to stop and I can't stop, when I try to tell somebody that I actually want to stop and I can't stop, I find I've not stopped because it's evident, and then they say I'm a liar. Right now, they are calling you a liar when you're not a liar because you're telling the truth, but you're falling in a trap of your own truth. So you kind of run away from your own self. It is
Yeah,
confusion.
it
The,
is.
people people judge the addict according to what they do, not what they have become. And that is why sometimes you find they're intolerant of getting to help people find recovery. You see what I'm saying? Finding recovery is about finding yourself, about finally accepting that, yes, I am out of control. I have got hand over my willpower to a power that is unknown unto me. You know, a power greater than myself. We call that power God. Others get to acknowledge God eventually, but that's what it is. It is very complicated. I don't know how to explain it. It is only a person like, say, like Peter, who will understand what I'm saying, because it's like he experiences the same thing. And sometimes one person will get it instantly. They find themselves instantly. There are those who don't even need a treatment program. Usually we say they are not addicted. You see what I'm saying? But they have been showing, they are living like the world has created an addict. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
a person will wake up in the morning and say, I'm done with this, I'll never do it again, and they stop. And then the reference will be, but the other guy stopped. Why can't you also stop? He was an addict. You see what I mean? Addiction is characterized by loss of control. If people would only get that.
Bill, I'm going to
Exactly.
get more
Yes.
into the recovery process and what it's like. Peter, one question for you. You
Sure.
dropped out of school quite a number of times, you said. Did
Yeah.
you ever finish school? Are you catching up? What's happening?
Yes, I did. I did finish school, but I didn't really get a degree. Like I didn't go to university. No, I didn't do that.
So what's the plan? I know COVID has disrupted everything else, but I'm curious to know what
Oh,
your plan is.
now I'm doing an online course at Harvard. Yes,
Oh,
I'm doing. Yeah, I'm studying the science of addiction.
all right. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We are speaking today about recovering from substance abuse, and we're speaking to Bill Bekunda from Bekunda Recovery Homes and Peter Ntango, who is a recovering addict. Peter, do you remember some of your worst days and what they look
Oh,
like?
I would go like on a all-nighter spree, like a weekend spree of drinking, drug abuse, and I'd wake up. I don't know where I am. Like I know I'm at a friend's place. I don't know how I got like blackouts. I used to have a lot of that. I didn't really like that because I like remembering what I do. Then I would ask my friends who I was out with, and they're like, you did this, that, you fought with this, that, you argued with this, you acted so stupid and childish. I'm like, is it? They're like, no. It's like you have two sides. Like you understand? Like they'll be telling me, do you have like split personality disorder? Are you bipolar? I'm like, no. But yeah, so really, I don't like that side of me.
Did your parents ever try to sit down and say, you know, how can we help, or what was the reaction from your family? And that was that what pushed you to actually go and look for help? But your reaction from your family first of all.
For the longest time, I was living in denial. So, but I realized because I'd always sit with my mom and dad and my siblings, and I'll be like, you know what? I'll always apologize every time I act a fool, or I act up, or I act aggressive. I'd always apologize. Sorry, this is not me. I would like sort of blame my addiction. It was sort of like an excuse. Like, no, you know me when I'm sober, I'm not like this. It's when I'm under the influence, and they're like, no, it's still you. Whether you're under the influence or you're not, it's still you, and you should work on yourself. It's not about your addiction. It's about personal growth. It's about realization that you know what, you can't live like this. This is going to end up bad for you in the long run. So it's better you work on this now, better now than later. So yeah, I realized that, and that's what I did.
Was that what pushed you to actually go and seek help?
Yes.
So where did you find Bill?
I found Bill at safe places.
Okay.
It's a rehab in Chambugo.
Bill, can you paint a picture for just how bad it gets for an addict? Just so that, I mean, it's important that even as we speak about these things, we're able to tell people just how bad it can get, so that young people who are watching actually know what they're getting themselves into, if they're thinking or even have already tried this.
Yeah. You see, unfortunately, a young person hasn't reached the point where they can actually see a problem with it. Why? Their brains are still developing. They are closer to instant gratification than, you know, making judgment what will happen. They don't really take in consideration of consequences. They are looked after, they are paid for, they are run after, they are given whatever they need. They have no responsibility. So it is difficult. Even when we go for prevention, why you'd widely read that scare tactics don't work. When you go and tell them it does this, it does this, it does this, it won't help them because they haven't reached there yet. You have to show them what is relevant to them. For instance, if you do drugs, you'll be expelled. You can catch a disease. You can be knocked down by a car. You see what I'm saying? You'll be, you can fail to pass your exams. This is what the drug does to your brain. And then the young person will get it. And that's what we call age appropriate education or something. But Pierre has just said something here, and I like to emphasize it, that it is not the drug, it is the behavior. If it was the drug, then we would not have people drinking. For instance, it is what the drug does to the person. So why are they called psychoactive substances? They change the mental state of the brain. They change it. It becomes different. If you had control, what happens? You lose it. The one who doesn't develop an addiction, when they drink, they will not lose control. They will gain control. Somebody says, they're going to drink, smoke recreationally, and he'll say, I'm going to take 3 pulls and that's enough for me. Or when they are smoking, when they feel a certain effect, they be like, that's enough. I'm not going further. What is that? I have gained control. The other one, the addict, loses control, such that if they wanted to take 1 stick, they'll take 2, 3, 4. Okay? It develops, you know. So it is about the behavior. What does it do to you? How does it change you? The drug itself has got a purpose. even heroin and cocaine, they are medicinal, but they are packaged for recreation. So is pethidine, which is packaged pethidine, tramadol, all these painkillers, morphine, but they can also be abused. Alcohol is supposed to be a relief. It helps with cough and, it can be a relief to the brain. But if it makes you lose control, then you're supposed not to use it. It's like having an allergy. You are supposed to explain to a doctor that I respond negatively to this drug, and therefore it's not administered to you. You see what I'm saying? So the psychoactive substance, suppose it is a good thing, it's not the drug. It is you, the person, and it's not a moral problem because you, the person, is not the problem. It is just that it does things to you. He said that he used to explain to people that when I'm high, you see, I did it because I'm high, but when I'm sober, I'm not like that, which is true. It has changed your mental state, okay? So we have to understand these things, although some people just take advantage of it when you say it's not the drug, it's the behavior, and then they make it a moral problem.
Bill, how quickly does it grow from day one of just trying to then becoming your lifestyle?
Well, there are certain standards that are put, but really it depends on the person. What we know is that the stronger the drug, the kind of effect it has got something to do with how fast you develop a problem. Some drugs are more addictive than others. Yes, okay. Alcohol takes the longest to become an addiction. Yeah, they would say the alcohol takes the longest because it's more behavioral. It is accepted, and even by the time it's manifested, it's really at another level. Then there are drugs like heroin. Within the first 3 months of use, there is already a noticeable change. It creates a dependency faster than alcohol. It takes, depending on the drug, depending on the person, because there is a genetic predisposition and the way they respond to the drug. If it gives you euphoria, you'll want to use it again. The more you need it, the more you're getting yourself to need it. So there are all these different things, and that is why when it comes to recovery, we start with an assessment and say, okay, where did it start? What was he using? Why was he using it? Are there family problems? Blah, blah, blah. And then we continue from there. Then we shall know how to deal with it.
How expensive is an addiction? Peter, how much in terms of your pocket change, your allowance at age 14, if you had one, how much were you spending on a daily on this?
More than I ever earned, actually, if I was earning that time. So really, I would spend quite a lot on using drugs, and I never benefited from it at all. Actually, I've made more losses because I weighed that liberal scale of the pros and cons. Like, what have I earned from using? And haven't earned anything apart from losing reputation, self-esteem, trust, and all that. So really, it's a very, 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 it hits you in all angles, the losses.
Was this all, the money that you lost at that point, was that money from your pocket? Did you ever find yourself having to take from people?
No, I became, addicts are very manipulative. So I would come up with so many excuses why I need money, especially on the weekend, to even starting to steal and all that, losing trust. So I really lowered my standards as someone. Yeah.
You keep speaking about losing your reputation. I want to understand, and the more you speak about it, you actually realize it's a really huge thing in terms of your reputation to your family. Was this also to your friends in different schools? Do you want to talk about that?
Not really, like my friends, not really, because we're all on the same boat that time. Some have changed like me, some are still on that dark path, some had like realization and changed their lives completely. Others are worse than ever. So, the different paths in life. So reputation, really, it affected me personally with my family and relatives. My friends, not really. But it really, what hurt me the most is actually my mom, her losing trust in me and all that. That's what really hurt me the most.
Okay. Bill, do you want to speak to how expensive addiction can be? Expense to your health, expense to your pocket, expense to your mental state. What is somebody actually losing in addiction?
We say when a person gets an addiction, they lose everything. It is the most expensive habit, not necessarily because of the financial implications, but because of the implications it has on everybody and everything around you. It will affect your job, it will affect your workmates if you're working, because instead of, and the company at large, for instance, if I work for NTV and I'm always on hangover, and then there's a friend of mine who is always taking up my job, you're costing the company money. That is why you should tell your bosses to call me and I educate them. Workplace productive. I'm creating a job for myself. Anyway, so it affects the company. It will affect your workmate who has to take on 2 jobs to protect you. It will affect your neighbors. For instance, if you give them sleepless nights, you come blaring music, you're drunk, shouting, fighting with your friends or your spouse because you're high. They can't sleep, they get disturbed, they're traumatized, they go to work, and then they take all that frustration and finish it on somebody else. Basically, we are saying that your mental health is affected. You are tired, you are weak, you are sick, you are angry, you get depression, anxiety. No, you don't get all of them, okay, but different people develop different different actions because of what they're being exposed to. It is expensive also financially because, I mean, how much are you going to spend? You have to think that money could have been used for something else. If you're taking hard drugs, hard illicit drugs like heroin, like cocaine, they're very expensive. We have had people talking about a hit going for 100,000, for 500,000, and that's just to get high. We have heard of some weed that goes for 50K for a stick, you know, and then you see what I'm saying? It is expensive to your life, to your health. You know, we say, how many people, malaria, people don't like talking about malaria. How many people sleep under the mosquito net when they are high? You know, you allow the parasite to come, you go to hospital. How many people use a condom, for instance? How many people let their guard down when they are drinking? Yeah, that is, now you're going to go on ARVs. We know they are not, they are free per se in Uganda, but we don't know about that in some places. So it is actually a very, very expensive habit, and it shouldn't,
Yeah.
I mean, and it shouldn't be ignored. Unfortunately, it is the most ignored. And thus, I would like to thank you, by the way, right now for always trying to bring up these issues in most of your programs, but it is extremely expensive and everybody is affected. Just like a cigarette, secondhand smoke, you smoke, the person next to you gets it. Now I have a problem and it affects even my CEO.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thank you, Peter. Let's take another short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We're speaking today about addiction, and we're joined by Peter, who is sharing his experience, Bill Bekunda, who you possibly know from sharing his experience from, you know, over the years, but also he's now a recovery coach. I want to speak about activities that can help. Are there activities that can actually help somebody who is struggling or who is beginning to suspect I might be in over my head? What activities do you do, Peter, to keep you busy now that you are in recovery, to take your mind off substance?
Well, good enough. I've always been into sports, physical exercise. I've always been into reading. I'm a creative person. I like writing. I'm a writer. I also do music. I like doing things that take my mind off, because those triggers still come. I still crave certain things, places. You know, I learned from the best, Bill. You taught me a lot in depth. So people, places, time, events, all that. So I try to do vigorous exercise. I try to meditate. I'm very prayerful. I read the Bible. I try to work the 12 steps. I try to keep my mind preoccupied all the time. Whenever I feel like I'm idle, like I'm starting to think negative thoughts, I pull myself out of that way of thinking, and I say, let me try and channel this negativity that's coming into something positive. Like I'll try and do chores. I'll try to help. I like helping people a lot because I have this sort of excessive energy, and that's why I used to do a lot of drugs to like calm my nerves down and relax my mind. But it was very self-destructive lifestyle. So that's what I do.
I'm curious. When you were speaking earlier about when you were addicted, you spoke about music and how it was also an influence on you,
Yeah, yes,
and the
yes.
kind of music and the videos. Is this still a thing? Do you still watch the same music, the same videos? Have there been any
No,
changes there?
I don't. The music I used to listen to was very commercial, like secular, full of subliminal messages, and like it's like they were brainwashing kids or like subconsciously programming us to do drugs. So when I realized that, I changed I listened to more conscious music with a message, a positive message.
Wow. Is your family
Yeah,
seeing the changes that you've made?
drastically, yeah, they're seeing it, and
Okay.
they thank God every day because the
Bill,
best thing is abstaining. Oh, okay.
all right. When you speak about abstinence, Bill, abstinence versus moderation. Everything in moderation is a motto that a lot of people have. Is there such a thing for someone who is addicted, that I can drink in moderation? I can smoke just one joint.
Okay. This is the problem with society. They think they think on one side. People ask you, but can I not just drink 1 or 2 beers? Why don't they say, can I not just drink at all? I mean, what's the benefit? So I wanted to go to the filling your time, the activities, there are 3 activities, if I may put it this way: get physical, get mental, and give back. I'll start with giving back. Giving back is reminding yourself of where you're coming from. It is equipping yourself with the ability to protect your young ones, the next generation, who include your children or children to be, from the problem that they might actually face, since we have what we call genetic predisposition. Get physical. There are people who, and I'm going to bring in selfishly the Kunda recovery homes. When somebody gets out of treatment, for instance, Pierre said that he met me at Safe Places. Yes, I was his coach at Safe Places Uganda Treatment Center. And that is a rehabilitation center. So he comes in, he spends his 3 months, and then he comes out. Now he has to become involved in something so that he can maintain his sobriety, right? He gets physical, I said, exercise and all that, and games and everything. But there are those who come out of treatment and go home and spend the whole day watching TV, expecting someone to get them a job, blah, blah, name it. And they become redundant. They feel useless. They get bored. They get angry. And what do they say eventually? That let me just go back and use. After all, what's the benefit of being, of this sobriety thing that we are having? You see, now, when I said I'm bringing the recovery homes, is that usually instead of sending a person like that who has just come out of treatment home, what you do is you get them to a recovery home, say Bekunda recovery homes, and while they're here, then we are not going to let them sit in the house. So they have their freedom during the day to go do what they are supposed to be doing. School, work, maybe they're going through an aftercare program in a rehabilitation center. Some of them have to go back to work, some of them, whatever it is that you need to do. And then there are those who did finish school, don't have a job, don't have skills, don't have anything. So we give them 2 weeks of reflection. Just reflect, concentrate, think, plan. And then within a month's time, we expect you to have decided whether you're going to volunteer, whether you're going to get a job, whether you're going to start actively join a sports team or something, whether you're going to, support your family business, but something, whether you're going to go back to school, make an application. By the end of the 3rd month, we should be seeing results, not having somebody just sitting at home, relaxed, watching TV and demanding for chicken, complaining that they have cooked beans when they cannot even put it on the table. So that is getting physical and then mental. You need to, he has talked about meditation. Meditation prepares you. It prepares the mind. It keeps you grounded. You repeat the same thing over and over. In my recovery to this day, since 2004, even during the time when I had a relapse, I have 2 things that I do to mentally keep up. Yeah. Of course, during the relapse, I relapsed from that a little bit, but when I got back my recovery, I went back. 1, in the morning, I wake up and I have a meditation for the day. What is going to be important for me? What should I think about? I give myself 30 minutes of that meditation and I do it in my bed. Then before I sleep, I do I make an inventory of my day. What went wrong? How did I respond to so and so? Did I get angry in the traffic? Was it necessary? Did I speak badly to someone? Basically, it is called self-improvement. Then the first one which I started with, which was giving back. Giving back also keeps you accountable. Telling your story keeps you accountable. You know what Pierre is doing right now is keeping him accountable. So people have seen him, they know, he has got 8 months of sobriety. He's following the right path. So when he goes out, he knows they're watching him. It keeps me under control. You see what I'm saying? So there is a lot that a person needs to do, but we find that because for the longest time, say somebody has been an alcoholic for the last 15 years, the closest they get to normality is chaos. So after those 15 years, they need to be reshaped to start thinking critically and doing things sensibly. You know what I'm saying? Not to sound offensive. They need guidance. They need more guidance. It has been unfortunate for the longest time that in Uganda, when you finish a treatment program, you just go home. They expect you to be fine. They don't know that it is not about the drug. It is about the behavior, the character defects that somebody developed when they started using the drug.
Very quickly, because our time is fast spent. Peter, who are the important people on your journey to recovery, and what does a support network look like for you?
I have to start with the higher power, that's God, G-O-D, my parents, my siblings, my recovery coach, Bill, played a very big role, and I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, my relatives who support me and this path I've chose of sobriety. Yeah, that's my circle. I keep a small circle.
What was the kind of support they gave you that helped you to get to your 8 months now?
Emotional, mostly spiritual. Yeah, those are the 2. Emotional, spiritual. Those are the ones. They didn't want to, I didn't really ask for much because I learned from Bill, 0 expectations. I don't expect them to buy me things just because, I don't expect gifts for being sober because really, it's my fault for all these things. So I don't expect much. I want to do things for myself. I'm tired of being dependent. Yeah.
Wow, Bill, you're teaching some very hard lessons there. What does a support network look like, very briefly, before we close?
My support network? Is it my support network you're
yes,
asking?
Your support network.
I have a very strong support network. We have a group of guys who, for the last 6 years, it's called Springs of Renewal. For the last 6 years, we've been accountable to each other. You see, you can't go this journey alone. There is no loner who can make it. And it's interesting that we have grown from, we used to talk about how we didn't have transport to meetings. Then it became how we don't have a big enough place to live. Then how now we have children, we have this. Then to a point today where it is now development. So what are you doing now? One is working, is doing at work for Al Jazeera. I am opening up a recovery home. I'm working in a rehabilitation center. You see others have built up in business and all that. So yeah, that is number one. Then my family, of course, and God. God comes first always. You start with God, you go through the day with God, and you end with God, because I have no willpower. And lastly, my biggest support is the people I give back to. I work with families and people suffering from addictions every single day. Basically meaning that I receive complaints, problems, misunderstandings, how many times a day? How many hours are in the day when the light is on, right? 12 hours? Okay.
12.
So for the 12 hours of the day, I expect somebody to come up with a need. And that keeps me grounded. It keeps me trusting God more, because who am I? I mean, I'm the same guy who was lying in trenches the other day. And even some of those that I speak to are those who used to blame me and call me morally deficient. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. In closing, Peter, I want you to speak. What you told me earlier in a conversation that the COVID period for you was a blessing in disguise. I want you to speak to how that was a blessing in disguise, but also speak to someone who might be on their way to becoming an addict. What would you say to them? So first of all, what was the COVID like period for you, the lockdown? And what would you say to someone who is on their way?
I had so many plans I wanted to implement, plus my sobriety. So it really, for some people, it was like a demise, like people suffered from it, but really me, I gained more. I had enough time to self-reflect and to become more creative than ever. I learned how to use the resources I had, limited resources, and try to do, like, expand on that. Like I tried to use I changed my mindset completely. I turn all the negatives to positives, and I do it day by day. And I try to release dopamine in the healthiest way ever. Eating healthy, exercising, meditating. You have to work on the three: the body, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
Or spirit. So that's what I worked on. So this month of lockdown, really people have suffered, because I've seen my people I used to use weed. They're in very, 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 very bad states. I'm sure Bill knows some. Like, people are suffering because now you have enough time to actually, people thought they were social drinkers or they were not dependent or like addicts. Now they realize, because now minus their work, they're 9 to 5, they're at home. If from 9 to 5 you're working, then from 7 or from 6 to whatever time you start drinking or using, now you can use for 24 hours or as long as you're awake. So now a lot of people have become self-blown addicts during this period. So really, it's not a good thing.
All right. What would you say to somebody who is on their way to becoming an addict?
My advice is think twice, because we all have goals. Everyone wants to be rich. Everyone wants to be famous. We all want that status. But ask yourself, think like long term. Like, visualize this: having a family. What stories would you want your relatives or your friends to be telling your kids? You see, your dad was this, that. No, you can use this as a testimony, like what Bill is doing, and he's helping a lot of people, including me. I won't be where I am right now if it wasn't for him. So really, he has helped a lot of people, especially the youth, to understand this thing. It's very deep. So ask yourself, what do you aspire to be, a failure or a loser? Do you think by using you're going to get a certain reputation that will help you in any way? No. No one wants someone with a substance with a drug problem. You understand? Now it's trendy because of so many aspects in life, and really, I don't know what this world is coming to, but what I would say is try to live a healthy lifestyle. Treat your body like a temple, because health is wealth.
Thank you very much, Peter. Clearly, Bill, you are doing a great job, I must say. Just listening to Peter speaking now, I know that you're going to reach so many people, and also the choice of school now. You said you're in Harvard and you're studying something related to your experience. I think that's really great.
Bill, very quickly,
what would you say to somebody in recovery in closing?
Somebody recovering, don't try to do it alone. Please seek help. You cannot do it alone. For those who are in recovery, if you have things that are bothering you, talk about them. Please feel free to contact me and I will see how I can support you. And for families, if you see something you don't understand, again, find out if it actually is a problem that can be sorted out before it gets worse. Addiction is progressive. If you don't deal with it, it gets worse every other day.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for taking the time to share stories. I think they're very, very important that we keep sharing them. Bill, don't get tired of it. And I will thank you now and say coming up is NTV Weekend Edition. We've come to the end of our show. Thank you for sharing and thank you for watching.